Hello, I'm Mr. Craig, and this is the second video for factor labeling or dimensional analysis. I highly recommend, and I may have said this in class already, that if you do watch the video or part of the video, at least attempt the question first before watching it. All right, let's get right into it. Question number 2, and again, I'm doing the evens on this video, so the odds you can find online. Just click and find those to get the answers really quickly once you've worked them out. Question number 2 says that we have 8 times 10 to the 6 milliliters, and it wants to know how many liters that actually is. Again, just like on the first video that I made and in class, make sure that you always, before you begin, write down the Great Mega King sequence. So again, I'll do that quickly and I'll fast forward through the video. So again, write down the prefixes, the values for those, and let's get right to the question. And again, 0, -1, -2, 3, 6, 9, 12. And remember, the units for the 1 are grams, liters, and meters. May not be the same order that I had on the first video, but again, for mass, volume, and length. All right, so looking at the first problem, we have a milliliter to liter, which is metric to metric, so this should only be one step. So again, start with what you know, and if you haven't watched the first video, be sure to watch it, because again, I go into very in-depth detail on how to work these out the very first time. So I'm going to go a little bit quicker on this one. So again, start off with what you know. So we know we have 8 times 10 to the 6 milliliters. And this wants to be converted into liters. Since this is a metric to metric problem, there's only one step. Ask yourself, what am I given? Well, I'm given this value in milliliters. I want to cancel the milliliters out, so I'm going to move the unit diagonally. So I'll put milliliters down here. I'm looking for liters. It's a metric to metric conversion, so it's only going to be one step. Ask yourself, which of these is larger? Since liter is right here and milli is right here, whichever one's farther to the left, that is the larger of the two values. Always assign the larger of the two values the value 1. And since this is a metric to metric conversion, we want to find out how many times are we going to move the decimal place from either liter to milli or milli to liter. So in this case here, if we have 0 to 3, I'm going to move the decimal 3 times. If I were to go from, say, here to kilo, I'm going to move the decimal 3 times. If I were to start with, say, gigaliters, and I wanted to know how many microliters that is, giga is 10 to the 9, so I'm going to move the decimal 9 places. And then if I'm going to micro, I'm going to move it an additional 6 places. So 9 plus 6 is a total of 15. So that's how I get my exponent when working this out. So in this case here, milli, 10 to the -3, liter, 10 to the 0, so I'm going to move my decimal 3 times. So again, whether I'm taking 2 steps this way or 2 steps this way, I'm still taking 2 steps. So positive or negative is an absolute when writing these values here. So put a 3 right there. So there's 1,000 milliliters in every liter. Once our units cancel out and we have the unit that we're looking for, now we get to solve. So make sure that you know how to type this in on your calculator. And in this case, I would type in 8 EE 6 divided by, open the parentheses for good habits, 1 EE 3, close the parentheses, equals, and by doing that, hopefully you get an answer on your calculator as 8 times 10 to the 3, or your calculator may say 8,000. Okay. Again, the EE button is a times 10 function, so your calculator says, oh, 8 times 10 to whatever number I type in next, so my n in this case is 6. So that makes that 1 times 10 to the 6. 4. We have 2.5 pounds, and it wants to know how many micrograms that is, or I'm sorry, milligrams, so M is milli. We're given a conversion where 1 pound equals 454 grams. So again, start with what you know. So we have 2.50 pounds. And this will be more than one step since this is an English to metric conversion. So there'll be at least 2 steps, if not more. So we need to first of all convert our pounds into the metric, which in this case is grams. So I'll place my pounds here and my grams. Have to ask myself which one is a larger value. Well, in this case it says 1 pound equals 454 grams, so 1 is obviously larger. Let me finish writing the units here. So now if I were to stop here, I'd have grams, but I want to cancel my grams out because that's not what I'm looking for. Let's go with the blue version. And can I convert grams to milligrams? In other words, is grams metric? Is milligrams metric? The answer is yes. So this will be our last step. And then you have to ask yourself, okay, well, let's take a look at that conversion. Well, let's go in order. So we have 1 pound equals 454 grams. So we can type that in directly. All right, now we have this one, gram and milligram. Which one's larger, gram or milligram? Well, gram is right here and milli is right here. So again, gram is larger, so assign the value 1 to the gram. And it's, how many times do we move the decimal from milli to gram? Well, millis 10 to the negative 3, grams 10 to the 0, so we're going to move it 3 times. So our exponent will be 3 on that one. Okay, and then let's get an answer here. So again, our units, grams are gone, pounds are gone, because I'm moving those units diagonally so I can cancel those out, and I'm left with milligrams. And the way I would type this in, 2.5 times 454 times 1 EE 3, or 1,000, whichever way you want to go. Since they're all ones on the bottom, I don't necessarily need to divide those by 1, but if you need to, go for it. And my calculator gives me a rather large value, which is 1.14 times 10 to the, we'll say 6. Now, my calculator actually reads this 1135000, but it's a good idea to get in the habit of writing your answers with the correct number of significant figures. And there's 3 here, and you'll notice that I do that a lot with 3 sig figs. So again, my decimal place here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's why my 6 is there. And then since this value's 5 or greater, then I round that number up, the 3 to a 4. So this is truly what my answer is, and we'll talk in class, if we haven't already, about how to get this number to look like this on your calculator. So we'll talk about that if we haven't already in class. All right, number 6. Another metric to metric conversion. How do I know that? Because I see meter here. So we have 452 millimeters, and it wants to know how many gigameters. Excuse me. All right, so again, ask yourself, which of these do we know? So we know we have 452 millimeters, and it's going to be a one-stepper, which is nice because going metric to metric is always going to be a one-step process. So again, let's move that unit diagonally, and gigameter. All right, so giga or milli, which one's larger? So giga's here and milli's right here, so giga definitely is the larger of the 2 values, so we'll assign the 1 to that. And how many times do I move the decimal, or my exponent value here? So giga to milli. So giga's right here, and if I go from 9 to 0, that's moving the decimal 9 times, and then going to milli, I've already got 9, and then I'm going to move it an additional 3 times. So 0 to negative 3 is an additional 3 places that I'm going to move my decimal. So 9 plus 3, not minus 3, 9 plus 3. So I'm going to move it from here, that's 9 times, and then an additional 3 here. Obviously not to scale. So 9 plus 3. Okay. So that means that my exponent on the milli is a 12. 9 plus 3. And so it looks like my units have canceled out and I'm left with gigameters. So let's make sure we can type this in. And the way that you would type this in on your calculator, 425 divided by, open your parentheses, good habit to get into, 1 EE, 12, close the parentheses, equals. Now you can't type out 12 zeros on your calculator, so you have to use some form of your exponent button. So EE, again, EXP, if you have a Casio, I think that's the button that's used. There's another one that I've seen that is times 10 to the X, that's a button as well. So all 3 of these things represent the same thing, okay? Or in other words, 1 times 10 to the positive 12. That's what all of that's representing there. Okay, so let's get a number here. And this number should be small since the 10 to the 12 is on the bottom. And my calculator says 4.25 times 10 to the negative 10. Okay, so even though you do not want a negative exponent within your work, you may have that as your answer. And since our unit is gigameters, make sure you represent it as such. Okay. So 4.25 times 10 to the negative 10 gigameters in 420 or 452. Whoa! I typed the wrong number in there. Sorry. Let's fix that. A little dyslexia there. Okay, so that's an easy fix. So 4.52. There we go. All right, so I'm not going to rework all that, but yeah, there's 4.52 times 10 to the negative 10 gigameters in 452 millimeters. All right, number 8. Here we have one of our fun ones again, where we have, looks like we have a volume over time. Now notice that I did something kind of quirky here. I put 12 minutes there instead of per minute. And that could happen. You could have something like, okay, I've traveled 100 miles and it took me 3.5 hours to do that. So it's 100 miles per every 3.5 hours. It's kind of awkward, but it can still work. So don't freak out by that. We're still doing the same process that we did on the first worksheet. So write down what you know. So in this case here, we know we have 5.33 times 10 to the 4 deciliters. And let's get that guy. And that's for every 12 minutes. So we'll worry about that 12 in a little bit. But for right now, don't freak out about that. Which one do you want to do first? It actually doesn't matter because you're given a conversion. 1 gallon equals 3.785 liters. I kind of like doing time first. So I have my minutes here. Let's go ahead and cancel the time. Since it's in the denominator, I want to put it in the numerator. So we'll put minutes here. Now, I could do a conversion. Actually, I have to do it. I'm thinking of seconds. So an hour goes on the bottom. And we'll get the units first. So first of all, sorry, I sound a little confuzzled there. So I have my unit for hours. My minutes would be canceled out right now. So that's pretty good. Deciliters, we'll move that down. And what do we want to change the deciliters to? We're given our conversion here where it's gallons and liters. We do not have a conversion that can get us from deciliters to gallons, but we do have a conversion that can get us from liters to gallons. So that means that we need to change the deciliters to liters. Then do one more step, convert the liters into gallons, since that's what we're looking for. So again, in this case here, deciliters is moving diagonally down. That means my liters need to move diagonally down. We wouldn't have liters on the top or put deciliters back up because deciliters are gone. And then we'll put our gallon here. And we have our second unit. So now we have all of our units in place. Don't freak out about this. That's what was given. So let's make sure that these verticals are equal to themselves. So starting over here, which one's bigger, an hour or a minute? Very good, an hour. How many minutes in an hour? Hopefully you know that, 60. So that conversion's done. Which is bigger, a liter or a deciliter? And again, looking at your chart, deci is just to the right of liter. So liter gets the value 1. And how many times do we have to move the decimal from deci to liter? 1 time. It's right next to each other. So that one's good. Our conversion here, liters and gallons, was given to you. So 1 gallon is equal to 3.785 liters. And I think we have everything. So now, typing it in. So we'll start off with what we have. So 5.33 EE4. Is it a 4 or a negative 4? Positive 4, good. Didn't want to make the same mistake. So that is that, times 60. Times 1, don't need to show that unless you're dying to. Divided by 12, since it is there. So I'm going to multiply everything on the bottom. 12 times 1, don't need to show the 1. Times 10 to the 1, which is really 10. So if you want to write in 10, that's fine. But if you're getting into the habit, this is 1 times 10 to the 1. So I go 1 EE 1. Again, remember that means times 10 to whatever number you type in next. Times 3.785. Close parentheses, get an answer. So let's see what that's equal to. So my calculator says 7,040.951123. So again, if I'm showing correct scientific notation, 7.04 times 10 to the 3, and that would be in gallons per hour. Gallons per hour, or if you wrote it as if you did 70,041 with that unit, I could live with that. But again, try to get your answer to the same number of significant figures. I believe we have one more. Oh, we do. Number 10. And again, it's one of those funny ones, except here we have a cube. So the last one we did not have a cube, but we did have a volume, which was kind of interesting. So the volume was up here, but it's not a cube. That's just what liters are. They're actually a volume without having to show the length times width times height deal. So it's not a cube. But again, start off with what you know. So we know we have 93.4, and that's grams for every, and again, I did something odd there. I went 72, and that's millimeters cubed. So this is a mass per volume. Not normal, but again, it's good problem solving stuff here. Doesn't matter with whichever one you start with, but I will tell you that grams to pounds is rather easy because we have 1 pound equals 454 grams. So I know that that's going to be a one-stepper. So move your grams. Put our pounds right there. That's an easy conversion. So we're done with the pounds. But if you wanted to start with the millimeters and going to inches, no problem, no worries, it's okay. So we have our pounds out of the way. Now we're going to do our millimeters cubed. But remember, try to do it as a linear function first, then we'll go back and put either the square or in this case the cube on there. So let's go millimeters first. So millimeter. And we do not have a conversion that can get us from millimeters to inches, but we do have a conversion that will get us from inches to centimeters. So change that to centimeters. And again, we're working in a linear relationship first, then we'll cube it up. So right now my millimeters are gone, so now I need to get rid of the unit centimeters and go to inches. So I'm going to move it diagonal and put my inches there. And if I had all these cubed up, I would have my last unit. Okay, So there we have all the units in play. I would highly recommend that you do that, especially on a problem like this. Let's go ahead and put in our equivalent values here. So 1 pound, there are 454 grams. Again, that would be given to you, and I think it was earlier somewhere, bam, there. So you got your 1 pound equals 454 grams. So you'll have that to your access. All right, millimeters and centimeters. Which one's bigger, millimeter or centimeter? So milli is here, centi is here, centi is farther to the left. That means that centi is bigger. So we'll assign the value 1 to centi. And how many times did we have to move the decimal from milli to centi? Good, 1 time. So that is our linear relationship. But we want to cube it. So that means that we need to cube it. Put your cubes on there, which means that we need to cube those values as well. All right. So remember that when you have values outside of the parentheses there, it's like multiplying. So when I take 10 to the 1 and I cube it, that's like I'm saying 10 to the 3. But we'll let our calculator do that. We don't want to worry about that. All right, so we have this guy is all equaled out or equivalent. So let's go ahead and do the same thing here. So which one's bigger, an inch or a centimeter? 1 inch, and there are 2.54 centimeters in every inch. Okay, that's a conversion. That'll be given to you. Let's cube that up. So put our cubes on there, which means that we need to cube these up. Okay, and it looks like we have everything that we need. So let's make sure that we're putting this in our calculator correctly. So the way that I would suggest you typing this in would be 93.4 times 1, yeah, times 1 EE1, so that's 10 to the 1, caret button, 3, so that takes care of the cube, times 2.54, caret button, 3, again, so 2.54 cubed, alrighty, divided by, open up the parentheses, so we have everything on top multiplied. Now we're going to divide by everything on the bottom, so that means I need to multiply everything on the bottom. Now, here's something that you really need to be careful and don't do something dumb. The 72 millimeters cubed, that unit was given to you. So what you're not doing is you're not going to cube that 72. Okay, that means that we had 72 millimeters cubed. So don't go and put a number on there. The only time that you do this is within the problem. If I'm giving you a value like this, leave it alone. So it's actually just 72. Okay, so it's 72. Yes, the unit is already taken care of. This value's already been taken care of, so don't mess with it. Times 454. And times 1 cubed still means 1. Okay, so let's see what that equals. Or actually, flip it the other way. And my calculator says 468.2304753. So what I want to write is 3 significant figures, because I have 3 significant figures here. So 468. And that is, what units? Pounds per inch cubed. Okay. Hope this video was helpful.